Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio. Intense Halloween period is over. Big and very interesting and revealing astrological events to prepare for, folks. We got our resident astrologer, Joseph P. Anthony, with us to tell us all about that. And the big issue, indeed, around educating Mr. Cabal Man. He will receive a piece of our mind towards the end of this show. So much going on, folks. Where to begin? It's all happening here tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio. This is your loving servant, the unknown light warrior. Okay, folks. So on this episode, you know, there's a bit of a fun kind of homework aspect to it as we begin our preparations for the big astrological events that lie ahead. And we'll be going through each one with someone who knows all about it, the ins and outs of it. And I'll be bringing to bear the opportunities and responsibilities that this holds. It's such a big deal, and that's where we're going to first. I will be giving a report on last Thursday's 144K anti-Halloween mass meditation. A big salute to all of you who made it either live in terms of linear time or joined us in the same time space event later through the recording, because weekdays are weekdays. What can you do? And you know, the Luciferians, they did continue doing rituals on Saturday as well, and I had my work cut out as a result. But anyway, it's done. Their opportunity is well and truly, I wouldn't say missed, because they did take it, you know, and until we walked in and gave them a rather warm greeting at the height of their rituals. And so, all good if you couldn't make it. And I'll be going into the rather revealing aspects of what went down at that moment of infamy on Halloween night, when, you know, the dark black magic rituals that the whole planet was targeted with, not just us, really reached that loud, deafening fever pitch kind of crescendo, including Saturday as well. And, you know, so very important stuff to know about that. You know, that's the beauty of Ground Crew Command Radio. With the information that you get, it's sort of, in a more fun kind of way, it doubles up as really important training and consciousness raising. A big deal. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to play my discussion, very important, fascinating, interesting, exciting, revealing discussion with Joseph P. Anthony from planetswithin.com. It's pre-recorded from a few hours ago this morning. And we got things to look forward to, you know, despite the roughness. We got things to look forward to. And speaking of things to look forward to, make sure you stick around for the news portion of today's episode, or this week's episode. It promises to be, not just fun and interesting and empowering, but there's critical information that you need to receive, from this broadcast. And so do hang around with that. We're going to get into the ins and outs. And first of all, before I forget, I do want to sincerely apologise for all of you who've written in, and I haven't even come close to even opening your emails, never mind, responding to them. And it would really mean a lot to me if you, accept my sincere apologies. Let's just say things are busy. Things are very, very busy in trying to, not just as it relates to all the energy work and 3D work with planetary liberation and serving soul mission, but this is an organisation that I am attempting to begin to raise that army of light, have a fully trained, equipped, and confident, and stronger. And yes, it is possible, even if we feel pretty beaten up. And there's some good advice to that effect with the upcoming interview that I'm about to play now. So before I play this awesome interview, and it was, again, you'll get a lot out of it, fascinating stuff that we discussed. There's many things that people, again, as always, people need perspective on to not just understand, but be empowered, to dissipate fear, to be strengthened in that morale, psychological, emotional sense. And as many of you long-time listeners know, that's what we're all about here. Ultimately, we're here for you. And lots of huge stuff happening both on the non-physical and physical planes. We've got the 11/11 mass meditation coming up. We'll be discussing that thoroughly as to why it's such a big deal. And again, what we can do to push Gaia onto the highest possible timeline and therefore bring the event so much closer. It's like pulling that red carpet with the event on the other side and pulling from one end and bringing that event or pulling the carpet over closer and closer to you. So let's get into it, folks. And here's the very exciting discussion that I had with Joseph. And pay close attention. I tried to keep the interview within an hour, but it went for an hour and 20 minutes because, some pretty mind-boggling stuff were discussed. So hold on to your seat, enjoy the ride, and here we go, folks.
And here we are, folks, on Ground Crew Command Radio with the one and only Joseph P. Anthony of planetswithin.com or .org? Because
.com.
Cool. Just want to make sure we get that one right. It always seems like a minor detail, and it's really a big detail. So thanks for coming over. It's awesome that we just happen to live in the same town.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's
imagine
wonderful.
that indeed. And, huge. I mean, we've had big astrological events come and go in the past. They're fairly regular now. We've had all sorts of important dates since January the 21st, but January the 21st of 2019 was incredibly massive because you had that full lunar eclipse, I think, or solar eclipse, all up and down the Americas.
That's right.
And that was a huge breakthrough with that mass meditation. We certainly made the most of that. Huge success. And yeah, obviously it's on for young and old, both astrologically, both energetically in terms of what's coming through and out the galactic central sun. And, it's a case of where do you start? and you know, we're determined folks to put things in a very coherent, cohesive, sort of a well-orientated macro bird's eye view sort of package in terms of information that's applicable for you, so that you can walk away from this important discussion with Anthony feeling much more confident, you know, to walk away with a real dissipation of fear, to understand what's going on, to, you know, roll with the punches and come out on top.
Yep.
You know, that really is the goal of this important discussion, because, I mean, we're all copying it one way or another. There's technologies in particular. Last time I checked, there was a particular grid of non-physical technologies specifically pointed at starseeds or light workers, that although has always been there for a long time, they tend to amp up the energies of a particular grid or weather systems or whatever it is when the previous stuff gets removed.
Right.
You know, so that's why you got this up and down ebbs and flows of
Sure.
how we feel and how things go. Anyway,
Sure.
So how have you been, first of all, with, you know, your plate, I can imagine, is so full with so much to report on and
Sure.
investigate?
Sure. Well, as I started off on 2019, I predicted, or many of us astrologers have said, that this was going to be a massive transformational year, where we were going to see a lot of dramatic changes taking place. And as, you know, predicted by many, we are seeing these changes, but they're energetic changes as well, not just societal changes that we're seeing. And I mean, it's obvious we see the societal changes, you know.
But that's always the last thing to respond.
Right, it is.
Yeah, you know.
Yes, absolutely. It's a sort of a symptom of what's actually taking place. And one of the things I have been seeing is the inability to focus, or you know, people getting so irritated at the smallest little thing. I've been seeing a lot of that. And then we have moments of euphoria and joy that come out of nowhere. And I'm sure a lot of my clients, including myself, have just been feeling, you know, these impulses, these waves, and how it's been affecting us. So 2019 is just a tip of the iceberg for this energy. Now, as we talk about 2020, and we'll get into that in a minute, we have a more serious side that's coming in, even more so.
And that's to do with Capricorn.
Capricorn
and
energy.
We'll definitely be covering that, folks.
Exactly.
So that, I mean, some cases, yes, it's hard when these galactic energies coming from the galactic central sun are forcing up our internal stuff into our faces to ultimately clear it. But by simple knowledge of what's happening,
exactly,
that really goes a long way to know it's part of a natural process.
It absolutely is. This is nothing new. The only thing that I realized is that it took place, the last time this actually took place, we were in this alleyway, this photon belt, was about 26,000 years ago. And I don't know anyone that was here 26,000 years ago, but that's the last time, because it was on the other side of the galaxy. We were on the other side of the galaxy, of the alleyway. So now we're on this side of it, you know, no matter how you slice it. So in this alleyway, we have increased amounts of energy, photon energy. We have Oort clouds, OORT, electrically charged clouds and plasma fields, and we're going through them. And so, like you're saying, once we understand this, now this is pure science saying this now, and measurements, and I showed you some of the images that are coming in from the satellites, because me and my friends do monitor this from a scientific standpoint. It's good to know what's actually happening, and we have a heads up, you know, because whenever these plasma waves are coming in, we have at least a day or two or three to feel it. So it gives us a heads up to say, hey, it's not just you losing your marbles, you know.
Exactly. And feeling all lonely as a lot of it, which brings another layer of emotional negativity that isn't necessary to experience. Exactly.
And then you've got that. We've got the astrology that also plays another role in it. And then, of course, we have, like you were talking about, certain manipulation that's taking place as well to keep us at a lower frequency. And television and politics and, entertainment is part of that. And so, but there, like I said in several of my presentations, it's also a great awakening, because with the increase in frequency, there is this amping up of our intuition that's happening. I don't know about you, Jim, but I feel super intuitive at times.
Yeah.
I mean, I could sense things happening before they happen. I have these dreams and visions before they happen. It's like we're getting amped up.
That's true, and the critical ramification that does need to be mentioned very importantly is, what does that mean to us? To us, that means more power in our own hands.
Exactly.
And now, as many of you know, the thing about more power is more responsibility and all that kind of thing, and more, disasters if you're exercising that power from a skewed consciousness or from internal wounding or false beliefs and usual stuff. That's why it's absolutely critical. I don't know if you've seen that movie Chronicles, with these 3 teenage boys. They discover a big, giant, glowing crystal underground. They touch it, and they get these nosebleeds all of a sudden. Then in the next few days, they develop not even telekinesis, psychokinesis abilities. But one of those boys, he's got, some sort of internal issues or psychological wounding or soul level wounding, whatever you want to call it, daddy issues, whatever, right? We've all got them.
Sure.
And he, as a result of having this power as well, he ends up causing a huge disaster.
Wow.
All right. And that's highly, indicative of what we need to be fully aware of in terms of what it means to have true power and having your stuff sorted out so you can use that power responsibly rather than causing more harm than good.
Absolutely.
And that's a big worry of the higher self, of every individual. I just want to really reiterate that.
Exactly, Jim. But again, getting back to what's been going on this planet, war. When I think of it, war has been one of the main instruments that the dark ones have kept the frequency low.
Yeah.
Kill, destroy, that mindset.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been doing up to this point. Now, the frequency, because it's amping up and being increased, and the masses are awakening, they can't do this stuff anymore. And so this is very beneficial for us to understand this. That yes, the power is shifting, like you're saying. It comes great responsibility, but it's shifting back to the individual, back to the family, back to the community.
Awesome.
That's what's actually happening. And so, and then couple that with the technology that we have now and becoming more aware of everything being multidimensional in a sense.
Yeah.
And it's humanity, most of humanity can't comprehend this. When you try having a conversation like this with somebody that doesn't understand the metaphysical world.
Yeah.
Multidimensional, right away, oh my God, this one's, they're out there, they don't understand. But everything is basically holographic projections of our own consciousness.
That's right.
That's all it is.
Yeah, and to back up that point, self-disclosure from Hollywood movies, meaning the Cabal. You remember in Matrix 1 when Keanu Reeves walks into the room to be inspected by the Oracle, and he's got to wait in this little living room with all these mostly kids, being the potentials. And little bald kid who's bending a spoon, right? That old stereotypical thing.
Sure.
And he says to Keanu or Neo, it's not the spoon that bends, it's you that bends.
Exactly.
Meaning,
loved it.
That's the reality.
Right. That's it.
Pardon me, a drink of water.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, Jim. And that's what we're realizing. We're realizing that we have a lot of power, a lot of potential. And I realized this a long time ago. We literally create our own reality. Whatever's on the subconscious, and it goes deeper than that. as well. What I discovered through astrology and studying human nature from the metaphysical standpoint is that your birthday is a timestamp of a timeline that is influencing your foundation of who you are. In other words, the frequency that you come in on into this physical suit influences your behavior.
Yeah.
It's not who you are, but it absolutely influences you. You know, you come into a certain sign, a certain frequency, it's locking you in to that frequency. Now, you could break free from it, and you do with time. You know, the energy keeps moving and shifting. So does your chart and planetary alignments and so on. And it makes you see things from a different perspective.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
So it's nothing is set in stone in this reality. This is a giant playground. You create what you want. It comes to you. You bring it to you, consciously or non-consciously, and you have a choice.
Yeah.
What I realize is everything on this physical plane is a choice. It's not wrong or right. That's just a judgment call and a perception. But it's more of, what do I need to experience with this choice?
Yes.
And that's what we're facing now. The choices that we're facing about who we want to be, where we want to be, what kind of society do we want in the world? You know? And so that's what we're up against now. And we can see these changes happening worldwide. In one of these areas, and I don't like to talk a lot about this, is the politics, the political scene around the world. How we have these people protesting and rioting, and it's been going on since 2008, nothing new. And we have people that are being elected that are not ordinary politicians, like, you know, who we have now, Mr. Trump here, and I believe it's Mr. Johnson in England. I mean, we have things that are changing. And that's reflective of the energy that's taking place right now.
Now, what as we dive into the upcoming astrological events that we need to be fully aware of, primarily to take advantage of it, in terms of fulfilling our sole purpose and missions to liberate the planet. I want to come from, as we talk about this, I want us to come from the, I suppose, perspective of planetary liberation, of us, as it applies to us, what we need to do, think, that kind of thing, from that angle. I suppose as practical as possible.
Oh, absolutely. The only way the planet is going to be liberated from these powers or these energies is for everyone to realize who they are. And I tell this to everyone, and in all my videos and everything I do now from this point forward, like many other messengers, because I consider myself just a messenger, a voice for the consciousness in some way, is to remember who you really are. You're not this body, you're not your mind, you're not your fears, you're not your things, you're not your titles. You're some form of conscious being or energy in a physical container having an experience. So the more we could get people to understand that as much as possible and to stop worshiping statues and ideas from the past, you see, the better we all are. Because the consciousness will be, it won't be as destructive, it won't be as detrimental when you walk around and you just realize everyone is an energy being having their own experience. And we see that here, Jim, you know, big time in Sedona. You know, we very much value life. You know, we look at it and we go, oh, there's another conscious being, there's an animal, there's a this and there's a that. And it happens all over the world, and it's not just Sedona. But here, the people seem to be more awake or in tune, a little bit more about what's important and who we really are.
That's right.
So
let's begin with what are the aspects of the current Mercury retrograde period until almost Thanksgiving. What are we really dealing with here?
Well, we're dealing with a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Now, this is a deep psychological, visit. When every time Mercury, the planet of communication, is in such a profound sign in Scorpio, it wants to know things on a deeper level. It questions its own purpose, its own direction, its own identity at the deeper level. Scorpio is a very deep planet. In other words, it's one of the planets that represents the past as well. So we find ourselves daydreaming about the past, revisiting the past, going back to the past.
So a bit of a clearing process.
Absolutely.
Once again, reconciliation, all that kind of stuff.
Coming to terms with the choices you made to get to this point.
Yeah.
That's what the Mercury in Scorpio is like. Now, this month, and I wrote about it in my newsletter, and anyone can subscribe. It's on my website. You could read it there. Is that this was going to be a very interesting month with regards to the past, reviewing the past and transforming it and moving beyond.
Yeah.
And because of the other alignments that are taking place as well. As a matter of fact, as we're recording this, we have Mars squaring Pluto in Capricorn.
Okay.
So this has been bringing up issues having to do over the last couple of days and maybe the next few days, issues having to do with partnerships, relationships, your job, your sense of purpose, because Pluto is in Capricorn, represents karma and choices.
Okay.
Mars is in a weakened state, as I wrote in my newsletter. Mars is in Libra, which does not do well at all. It's a detriment in astrology. And then on top of that, we have the Mercury retrograde. So we have this sort of, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I want to reflect upon the past, and I want to understand it, and I want to reconnect with people that I've been around before. It brings me security. It makes me feel safer. That's the mindset that we have this month, at least until the 22nd. After the 22nd, when Mercury picks up speed and starts moving forward, we start thinking more about money. We start thinking about finances. We start thinking about a purpose. And we're looking towards the future because now the sun is making a difference. It's going from Scorpio, which it is now as we're doing this podcast. It's in Scorpio. So we have Scorpio sun, we have Scorpio Mercury retrograde, and so we also have Taurus energy at play with Uranus.
Okay.
Uranus is in the picture too, and that's going to be opposing Mars later on in the month. But from my standpoint, this is a big transformational month psychologically.
Okay, so would you say with the retrograde period, it's also, in terms of the higher octave aspect of it, or the opportunity it presents, to reconcile, heal, or process, and or release past stuff?
Exactly.
Understand that, okay, that's what happened, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't his fault, it wasn't her fault, that kind of stuff, and let it leave. Kind of thing.
And that usually happens around the full moons. And this month we'll have the full moon in Taurus around the 12th. So again, you have that same energy at play with Mercury playing its role in the background with the full moon in Taurus. And so we have this energy where it's about getting back to the basics and realizing what our values are and what kind of values we created for ourselves from the past. The choices we made, this, and got us to here.
Right.
So it's coming to terms with all of that.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
Okay. Well, that's a good opportunity, folks, to, if needed, use the most robust tools and healing methods that you know of to make the most of this Mercury retrograde opportunity to really process the stuff, release it in many cases, or just understand it in other cases, shut down, if it was something really bad or serious, shut it down, whatever portal or soul gateway around and, clear it out of your field and that kind of thing. So you can set yourself up for that highly opportune post-Mercury retrograde period.
Absolutely. Because everyone knows pretty much that follows metaphysics and astrology that what Mercury represents. The retrograde anyway. It represents. It represents the past. It's a doorway. A doorway opens up and you either walk through it or it gets brought to you or you deal with issues from the past that you didn't want to face before. So that's what we're doing right now.
And folks, this could involve 3D stuff like cleaning out your garage or your backyard and your closet.
Could be anything.
Because obviously that's just an outer reflection of the internal stuff, so one helps the other. It can be done in reverse.
Absolutely. It's really based on your own individual chart, Jim. Depending on where it is in your chart, that it'll bring that energy up.
Well, there you go. You go. And, Do you have a particular page or chart on your website where people can see, as it applies to this Mercury retrograde period, where they can go to see what their star sign is? And do you have anything like that?
I don't have an astrology chart generator on my website. There's one there, but it's not very good. I'll have to invest in one in the near future. But if you know your chart, and you know the degrees that everything is at, and of course I do charts and readings and all that, and I do sell your birth chart online. You could get one emailed to you, and it's only $10.
Okay.
You know, you get a little page, a few pages that describes your birth chart, so you know what degree everything is in. And so when you know that, let's say the retrograde is going from a certain degree to a certain degree, you could figure out where it is in your chart going through that part of your chart.
Yeah.
You see? So, for instance, if you're a Scorpio, let's say you were born Scorpio at 0 degrees, Scorpio, or and you happen to have an ascendant, or the rising sign was in Scorpio as well. You know that retrograde is just right in your first house of identity and self and motivation, and it's just sitting there. So there's a tendency, as an example, to go within. Am I doing what I really want? Do I feel fulfilled? How do people see me? I don't want to really socialize a lot. I want to hang out. Hey, maybe I'm going to go revisit the old neighborhood that I grew up in. Reach out to some friends that I haven't seen in a long time. There's this nostalgia that comes along with the retrogrades. And so it's all self-directed because it's the first house. You see? So it's a language. It's a language of understanding cycles, symbols, all of that stuff. So it really depends on where it falls in one's birth chart.
And folks, this is something that you'll be guided with anyway. Nothing you need to really obsess over and look up astrological websites and say, what I have to do, what I have to focus on, that kind of thing. Nothing to get. You don't have to get neurotic or anything like that.
Not at all.
You'll be guided anyway. But obviously, if you don't consider yourself the most intuitive person in the world, a bit of extra clarity doesn't hurt.
No, exactly.
So that's a great service that Anthony has over there. If you think you need the help,
Exactly.
It's up to you.
Jim, the other thing is speaking of intuition, Scorpio energy is very intuitive. And so it's one of the water signs. And so with the Sun in Scorpio and also with Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, there is also an enhanced psychic ability that goes along with, having Mercury in Scorpio and having the Sun in Scorpio right now.
Right.
And so pay attention to your dreams and your visions, because something could surface that you need to hear and sense.
And that's a great advantage that we have working for all of us. And, so just be aware of, especially in periods like this, there's really no such thing as a random thought that enters your head. It's coming from somewhere, especially, if it enters your head more than once or twice, there's some sort of consistency, and you realise, okay, maybe it's just something that's leaving, and recognise it as such, and you don't really need to do much. Apart from a bit of understanding and perspective, or again, if it's one of those really acute or traumatic events, maybe it is something you need to do a healing session over with your guides, or using the ICB or anything like that.
I would suggest, if you're going to do any healing session or healing work, Mercury retrograde is a good time to do it.
Exactly.
Near the full moons is one of the best times to do it. A couple of days before, maybe a couple of days after, it doesn't matter. But full moons bring things to light. They're ending and completing a cycle. So since our bodies are in tune with the cycles, especially females, their menstrual cycle is in tune with the moon. It's a great time to release and to remove that emotional blockage or that psychological blockage that you might have had imposed upon you or in some way experienced. So great time to do it around the full moons, especially lunar eclipses, which we have next year at the beginning of the year. We have a powerful lunar eclipse in Cancer. And talk about getting rid of emotional blockages. That's one of the most powerful ones to do it in.
I suspect there'll be a collective one as well for Gaia to clear as well, and we'll certainly get into that.
Well, not only that, Jim, the United States is a Cancer nation. We were born in July 4th. It's a Cancer nation, so you're going to see more changes coming to the United States in the year ahead.
Interesting. Well, again, we've got to be as starseeds and meditators, mass meditators. We've got to be at the helm, ready to seize on these opportunities, and I suppose in a positive sense, be in charge of the energies to help shift the planet in a better direction, at a higher timeline than what it otherwise would have gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this Mercury retrograde period, when does it end again?
On the 20th officially, but then it starts to pick up speed. So 22nd, things start moving because Mercury's a very fast planet. So the 20th is when it ends, and then it starts to pick up speed. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and starts moving forward again.
Okay. Of this month, November 2019. So, that's the main focus for you folks. As always, go internally and clear any stuff that starts coming up.
Exactly.
And really set yourself up for a great, Thanksgiving and December period. So that's where most of your focus really needs to be primarily. As is normally the case, really, even if it's not Mercury retrograde, it's just more opportune and conducive to do this sort of stuff now. Other than the 11/11 mass meditation coming in a few days, yes, when that happens, join the 144K mass meditation or whatever mass meditation group you may be a part of. Focus outwardly for that brief couple of hours. Sure. Okay, fine. Other than that, focus on yourself.
That's it. Remember who you are.
So let's delve deeper into the Mercury annular eclipse of Sunday, 11/11. Since we brought that up, it's apparently, from what I'm told, a rare aspect. And what kind of things does that portend?
Now, what are you referring to when you say Mercury, the angular eclipse?
Well, unless I've mixed up my information.
That's okay.
I've got here Mercury. No, must be the lunar moon.
The lunar. Well, there's a full moon that's going to happen.
All right, let's talk about 11/11.
Okay.
Keep things simple. Talk about 11/11. Yeah.
That has a lot to do.
Oh yeah, Mercury transiting the sun, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it'll be very close to the sun because the sun is in Scorpio. Mm-hmm. So Mercury will be very closely aligned, and matter of fact, it will be in the front of the sun, facing the Earth. So what does that mean? Lots of communication. That means thoughts about financial matters, because we're talking about full moon in Taurus versus the sun. Passion, intensity. It means, it could be anything to do with control issues, because these two signs are very passionate. The sun in Scorpio, the moon in Taurus. Mm-hmm. And then you have Mercury retrograde in the mix as well, adding a sense of confusion. We have to keep this in mind. There could be an element of confusion in the mix. We also have Uranus is in the picture, not as close to the moon, but Uranus is in Taurus as well in a retrograde mode. So we have a lot of mixed energy that's taking place here that is a little unsettling, to say the least.
Yep.
But it has to do with our values, our belief systems, and something to do with the financial system or the monetary system. I monitor these things as well. And behind the scenes, if you're paying attention, you have things like the Federal Reserve buying U.S. bonds, buying back bonds. This is insanity.
Right.
I mean, it's like worthless paper buying more worthless paper.
Yep.
And they're all trying to keep the dollar propped up.
Yeah.
And so we may have some news around this full moon having to do with the economy. The real economy, not the stuff that you see on television, going, hey, everything's great.
Well, it's interesting because, the cabal is doing what it's doing to keep everything going and propped up, partly because it doesn't know what else to do until it can figure something out to go ahead.
And not only that, Jim, but the good guys don't want the economy to crash either.
Yeah, because they're not quite ready yet either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying to put something new in place, whether it's going to be a gold-backed currency, a cryptocurrency. I think it's going to be multiple different things going on simultaneously over the years.
Yeah.
But the good guys don't want it. Also because it would cause too much mass hysteria and negative energy. Mm-hmm. God forbid, we see an economy crash. It's not pretty. It's not. It causes too much anxiety and stress, and people start to worry, and they start to panic, and so on. And so nobody wants that.
That's right.
So, but they're slowly making moves and trying to change things.
Yeah.
And so what we have is. Again, on a personal level, it has to do with your values, it has to do with your job, it has to do with your money, it has to do with, the things that you value the most. On a macro, it has to do with the financial system. It has to do with power moves behind the scenes that are taking place politically, socially, economically, and we'll see more of that as well.
Okay. Well, two things. First of all, you mentioned the word confusion. All right. Now, when the brain is confused, that usually means it's looking for new connections.
Sure.
Are we looking at that at an energetic astrological level?
Yes, we are. But
like a kind of, at least, well, initially at the energetic level before it flows onto the physical, a reorganization, a fundamental reorganization.
Yes, but we're talking about Mercury retrograde with Taurus energy and Scorpio energy. It's a very psychologically draining energy. And so it's hard to let go. With these two signs, they're so set in their ways. They're both fixed signs. You see, and Mercury is in a fixed sign retrograde, meaning going within and not able to make sense of things. And I see it. I see it in friends. I see it in clients. It's like they're on this psychological transformation that they can't let go of.
I think the key word here, which all this fosters, I guess, is uncertainty.
Uncertainty, yes.
And that's what, understandably, creates a lot of fear, freaks out the conscious rational mind.
Yep.
And I think, and you're saying that kind of energy is going to be at its height on 11/11.
Yes.
Hence, the critical need for a mass meditation to calm things down and to smooth the reorganization process and new connections. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and there's something else going on here, Jim, underlying it. There is also Saturn making a very favorable connection to Neptune, the planet of spirituality and mysticism.
Okay.
It's a sextile. It's called a sextile in astrology, and it's 60 degrees. Saturn works very well with Neptune in this alignment that's going to occur again during this 11/11. So this is a time of some sort of karma, because Saturn represents karma, and Neptune is the spiritual side of life. The mystical side, the intuitive, the spirit. And these two will also be playing a role during this full moon alignment and this 11/11 alignment.
Okay, now does this mean that with Saturn and Neptune, this is going to, I suppose, force a past karmic and spiritual reconciliation, resolution?
It'll bring more awareness to it. It'll bring much more awareness to it. And we may be more compassionate or feel more compassion for others or for ourselves. Remember, throughout the day, the energy is moving, the cycles are moving, the moon is moving, the earth is moving. So it could be in the morning where, the energy is very chaotic and staticky. By the time the nightfall comes, you're feeling the different aspects of it. And you're in this, I'm so grateful mode. Or I realize who I am mode. Or I realize, I'm very compassionate towards a certain situation that's occurring, or family member, or friend, or even to yourself.
Right.
And so there is that dynamic at play. There's a lot of energy on this 11/11 because of the full moon, the alignments, the Mercury retrogrades, the planets involved. And so this is a great time to meditate on who you are. Okay, spiritual being, having human experience. You'll enjoy all the experiences that you came here to experience. And also, because it's a full moon the following day, to just realize this is all part of your evolution, all part of your need to go through this process. Don't take it personally in the sense that, it's only happening to you.
That's right.
It's happening to everybody. We're feeling it. Everyone's feeling it. And to transform it, to take that energy and go, it'll all work itself out. I will release what I don't need anymore.
Yeah, try not to, again, uncertainty, which is going to be at its peak on 11/11 and before and after for that matter.
Right.
Quite often triggers people to, without even realising in many cases, to resist in that general fundamental sense.
Absolutely.
All right, of what's happening rather than going with it. Riding that wave rather than swimming against it. Choose your, metaphor.
Absolutely.
And to go with it. Anything becomes really bad, again, heal it. Use the most robust energy healing method that you know of. Heal it. You don't have to take things sitting down anymore. But yeah, try not to resist. I suppose is the main message there.
My suggestion would be, because we're talking about an earth sign and we're talking about all this mystical, spiritual energy, go out in nature.
Pure water. Yep.
Nature, anything to do with the real world where things are natural. This is also a full moon about getting back to the fundamentals, the basics.
Yeah.
And nature is one of the most powerful things you could do to realign yourself.
Good idea. That reminds me, nature, as many of us know, is, it's not completely cleared, obviously, and perfect, but generally speaking, it is a clearing space. Being out in nature does help you clear. Now, being, the headquarters of 144K group here, we also want to make sure we have full perspective of the collective aspects, both at the solar system level, as it relates to the history of the solar system, with all those wars and so forth. Again, just to wrap it up with the Neptune and Uranus sextile, and that's its influence on the whole thing with 1111. Do you think it'll be an idea to, if it comes up, in a collective sense, to take a brief look at, reconcile, heal, perhaps through a meditation or whatever, the history of the solar system and help it return it to its spirituality? Do you think that's a conducive moment or opportune moment to do?
I think it is, but it's not the time yet. We're going to, when Aquarius energy is at play, or, Pisces energy is at play, somewhere down the line, when Pluto is involved, and some of the outer planets are involved, like Neptune's already in its own sign. But when Pluto around 2024 goes into Aquarius,
right,
and you have some of the other planets in Aquarius at that time joining Pluto, I think that's when the consciousness will become more space-oriented and dimensionally oriented. You see?
Awesome.
Right now, this is about the structures, these few years coming up, especially the next year or two.
To set ourselves up, to lay the groundwork, to set ourselves up to actually be able to accrete and be stable when that Pluto 2024 event happens,
Because we will be interacting with other beings from other planets. Okay? There's no doubt in my mind. I've seen it. It's going to happen. And there'll be spacecraft flying around that we've never seen before. And it'll make us question our own belief systems and who we are, where we came from. And that's when the consciousness will shift to all the wars and all the fear and all the control mechanisms that were put in place. And we'll transmute that, and we'll get that. It's a slow process. That's the thing. It doesn't happen overnight because it's been thousands of years.
Having said that, because quite commonly star seeds are way ahead of the curve as compared to the collective. So are you sort of, in a somewhat generalized way, referring to the general collective? As in terms of where it's at now, humanity at the moment, the unconscious majority, or whatever you want to call it, as opposed to, people like you and me, where ET, seeing the occasional ship, is sort of like passe at this point. You know.
Well, society is slowly being conditioned, and they have been for quite a while. One of the reasons I say that is let's look at all the movies. The movies, are their way of showing us what's really going on behind the scenes. And, up until this point, we've had movies about UFOs being evil and destroying and destruction. But now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see space movies and technology and UFO movies that seem to have more of a positive spin psychologically. And so it's slowly being rolled out.
No doubt.
To make us realize that we're not alone. We've never been alone, that this planet is a giant experiment in consciousness and in physical form. And so we're beginning to see that and having to question all of that. Who are we? Who are we, do we have other beings from other planets here, star seeds and so on. And so we're starting to look outside of ourselves. But first we have to get rid of this limiting belief. That we just get up, go to a job, and get this work with paper. I mean, that has to slowly fade away, or we have something else in its place before we can get to the next level. Because what I see is an acceleration of consciousness. By the time we hit 2024, 2025, everything is just going to start pouring out.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready for it, it will psychologically drain you.
Yep.
Emotionally, psychologically, and that's what we see now.
Yeah.
So,
well, sorry, there's no doubt the majority, the unconscious majority is in for quite a treat when it comes to all of that.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of starseeds listening to this are saying, well, I'm ready, and in many cases, yes, but you still have to, to use that old Bruce Lee philosophy, move like the water, move around and through things, seamlessly, and that primarily centers around that, fairly consistent, disciplined morning spiritual practice, healing, clearing.
Follow your bliss, as the great Joseph Campbell said. Follow your bliss. The things that make you happy and that you're curious about will bring out that joy and that creativity in you.
That's right. Now you have in your newsletter for this month, you have written this month's full moon in Taurus will help us turn our dreams into reality because it activates the Saturn sextile Neptune. So let's wrap up the Saturn sextile Neptune as it relates to helping us turn our dreams into reality.
Yeah, well, if you're on path and you're awake or you have an understanding of who you really are, and there's something that you really want to do or make happen, this is a great alignment for it. You know, it basically says, right, it supports, and it could be something as simple as completing a project around the house.
Yeah.
It could be something about going to see something you've always wanted to see. We make it out to be something big.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything major or dramatic or, it could be small or large.
Exactly. So do something that you feel really good about and it's rewarding and remind yourself, hey, I accomplished this, I made this happen, this is great, wonderful. Part of my experience. Yeah,
and when is this? I mean, there's so many dates here. I don't know where to start. So when is this month's full moon again in Taurus?
On the 12th.
On the 12th.
On the 12th of November. The 12th, yeah.
Okay. Well, again, folks, that's a strong incentive to participate in the mass meditation on 11/11 because that'll help us come out the other end of 11/11 at a comparatively more higher timeline, both individually and collectively.
Right. So about raising the frequency.
Yeah, to therefore make, the most, even more, having a more opportune and easier time of the turning your dreams into reality with the Saturn-Neptune sextile.
Absolutely.
Really important to keep that in mind, folks. Remember, we're the ones that have to be in charge of the energies and the overall direction of the planet. That's our collective soul responsibility and mission. That's what we're here for. Incarnated. We're not just incarnated on the physical plane just for the sake of experiencing contrast and suffering and yada yada.
Well, I like to say that we're the ground crew here.
Yeah, that's it.
Those of us that are awake and understand all this, we're the ground crew.
Yeah.
And we have a whole team throughout the other realms that are non-physical that are supporting us.
Yep. Off-world, multidimensional, physical and non-physical. That's right. We're just the physical tip of that big team. And but to understand that it's also a responsibility, a really critical responsibility, and a sacred responsibility.
Sure.
Taken extremely seriously. I mean, not get all religious about. Don't get me wrong. It just is what it is.
Exactly. But remember, we chose to come back here.
That's right. That's right.
We chose it.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Let me see here. I wish I was a faster reader.
That's okay. Well, one of the things that, Jim, that I see coming is karma. Because we have all this Capricorn energy that's going to be activated when Jupiter goes into Capricorn on, I believe it's December the 2nd. And I'll write about that in my newsletter as well. Now we have Pluto, we have Saturn, and we have Jupiter in Capricorn.
And what are the dates for those?
Well, Jupiter is going to enter Capricorn on the 2nd, December the 2nd.
December the 2nd, okay.
2nd. We already have Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, and they'll be joining forces at the beginning of the year on January the 12th. Jupiter conjunct Pluto. And Saturn conjunct Pluto. And we'll have Jupiter in the background still in Capricorn. And what this means is there's an element of karma. And karma just means the effort you've put in to reap the reward that you put forth.
Or the old age, you're going to get what you've given.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see that on a personal level. Have you put in the effort to achieve your goals? Are you in the right profession? Are you doing what you're supposed to do, on this planet?
Yeah.
All of that stuff is going to be important in our lives in the next year ahead.
Ah, okay.
So it'll elevate people to a higher stature, or it'll bring down some of the corruption that we've been seeing worldwide, as well, because there's an element of, you wronged. If someone say, like for instance, and I don't want to harp on this, but the pedophilia stuff, which is, those of us that know, it's been worldwide, and these systems are being taken down.
Yeah, that's the thing. And
so same goes with for politicians, actors, anyone in the public that has not been engaged in a higher consciousness will be exposed.
Okay, so what comes to mind here, and this is a big deal. You know how towards the end of World War II, all the negative stuff that Nazi-controlled Germany did to mostly Europe started recoiling back into it. Is that the sort of thing we're talking about here as it relates to the Cabal?
Yes, and it's already been happening worldwide. You and I and others, we have been monitoring this. You're never going to see this on mainstream because the Cabal owns mainstream. So we're seeing it worldwide. Systematically, there have been massive arrests. Systematically, politicians are being slowly escorted off the stage. Here in the United States, we are seeing the corruption of what's going on. And so it's coming out. It's absolutely coming out, and this is part of the karma.
Right.
And like I just touched upon earlier, is the lunar eclipse in Cancer, which is going to affect the United States in some way.
Okay, I want to get to that. So to finish off this point, you're saying that the recoil or the karmic recoil is just going to get greatly amplified over the next 2 to 3 months regarding the Cabal.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The deep state, the Cabal, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
They're going to be front and center.
Yeah.
This whole year, but more so the next few months, yes.
The next few months.
Yes.
So from now till probably February.
Yeah.
Also. All right. And so from our perspective, in terms of our role in the whole scheme of things, our job is to make sure that, I suppose we make the most of that. Make sure that any destabilizing effects of the Cabal copying what has been sowing these past 26,000 years doesn't destabilize the planet too much and to limit the damage to only the Cabal.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. Well, our job are messengers. We are messengers to help people remember who they are.
Yep.
Okay, and to tell them, hey, this is one structure that was set up thousands of years ago, to control humanity, and you must begin to realize it has to fall apart. It has to disassemble.
Yeah.
We have to set up a new system that seems to be either more equitable or is not so controlled, which is not an easy task when you understand how everything works.
Not only that, but once again, that word uncertainty, that sort of deconstruction stuff, it creates uncertainty, which creates fear,
Absolutely.
Which the non-physical darkness can take advantage of.
Sure.
And again, that's where starseeds, typically through mass meditations, have to step in and intervene.
Right.
Okay, folks?
Exactly.
Really big deal
to
take to heart. Big responsibility, critical role that would play.
And that's why I totally advocate. Number one, meditation on a regular basis. Okay, remember who you are. Meditate on who you are. Who am I? Am I my body? Am I my job? No, you're none of that. Here's a meditation that I use, and I'm more than glad to share it. I start off by saying, almost on a regular basis, I will enjoy all the experiences in my life, because all we're doing is having experiences, right?
Yeah.
I realize I'm some sort of spiritual consciousness in a physical container. I will do the best I can. Everything will work itself out as it always does.
That's right.
This is what I say to myself. I've been saying to myself for years. The more you do that form of meditation, very simple, very basic, but the more you do it and realize it and you begin to see the energy of the source everywhere, the creator everywhere, in the trees, in the animals, in other people, and your consciousness begins to shift. One of the things that I see, Jim, is that because of this energy and this ramped up energy, we're beginning to see through things and people. You know, who are they at their core? You know, are we being lied to? You know, is this our highest good? All that. It's all coming out.
That's right. To be tossed off or reorganized or transmuted.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it's time to evolve, and that's that.
Exactly.
You know. All right, let's finish off with 1111. You know, tell us more about, you know, with the full moon in Taurus. You know, does that have the ability to really activate the intention for a financial reset? That's, you know, that's been the big buzzword for a few years now in our Awaken Aware world. Financial reset during what Cobra has, you know, called the Silver Trigger meditation on 1111. So he's included and highlighted to people, hey, the sacred or noble metal of silver, it's not just a metal, or you know, it's actually like gold and silver. He was saying platinum, and I think copper as well. He was saying in a recent interview that those metals, and they're not just a physical thing, you know, that we through our own decision placed value on. They really are physical emanations of very sacred spiritual energies, very specific sacred spiritual energies. So with that in mind, and I apologize for being a little long-winded about that, you know, full moon in Taurus, does it really have the ability to activate that intention, you know, for the financial reset?
Anything to do with Taurus energy or Scorpio energy has to do with finance. It has to do with money. Those are the two signs that represent money and finance. For instance, gold is associated with Leo energy because of the color. But again, it's still material possessions. So anything to do, yes, there could be, I mean, we've slowly seen silver and gold go up over the last month or two. You know, slowly creeping up. Again, it's being artificially kept down.
Particularly with silver, the cabal, it's been manipulating the price of gold at a much lower price than what it should be. But silver in particular, very heavily.
They've been buying tons of it.
Yeah.
You know, and
but still manipulating the price.
Absolutely.
Well, why?
To keep the dollar afloat.
Uh-huh.
If the precious metals start going through the roof, everyone will dump their dollars.
And go for that.
And
then
it will collapse economies. Exactly. Okay. So that's what's happening. And that's always possible with the full moon in Taurus. And in Taurus.
And folks, it's important to be aware because a lot of us have got that subconscious and extremely deliberate programming by the bloodlines and ultimately originally not physical darkness that, you know, things to do with finances and noble metals is just, you know, material, therefore quote unquote not spiritual, and you know, just sterile, you know what I mean? We don't need money and all that kind of stuff. It's really critical to understand and keep in perspective that money is compressed life force energy. You know, Thomas Williams, if you know him, was really, you know, really made sure he made people understand that. Quite adamant about that. It's life force energy, and money and finances is what is energetic current working through society, working through people's fields, which is, you know, why, as we all know, the cabal has gone through whatever it's had to go through to seize control of the issuance of currency.
Absolutely.
Currency. Think of currency in terms of an electrical current.
Exactly.
You know, that works through the energetic structure of society. Well, folks, this 1111, we have the opportunity to take control, claim back, regain control of that current, that energetic current known as currency. All right, and you know, sorry to have to go on a slight side note here, because this is really critical. I explained in a previous episode that money is not the root of all evil. You know that's wrong just by virtue of the fact that it comes from the cabal. It's, you know, the ramifications of being in such deep, dense, clunky energies where it takes much more energy and time to manifest a chair or a carrot. You know, having to sow the seed, wait 6 months, spread manure, yada yada.
Sure.
You know, that's just the nature of, you can say that's the root of all evil, you know, but, and then money is just a critical thing needed as a, you know, substitute for bartering, which is highly impractical. And that's it, folks.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean?
Exchange.
It's energy. It's all energy. Everything's energy.
That's it.
You know, gold, silver, that's energy, a particular kind of energy. It's obviously at a slower, dense vibration, but still energy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way in case people missed that episode, because it's a big deal. Finances and currency is like what arterial blood is to our cells and the whole body. You know, really take that seriously, folks. Nothing sterile or quote-unquote non-spiritual about it. So I know I have to harp on about that, because you know how deep the subconscious programming is around that.
Absolutely.
You know, especially in the Western Christian world. Anyway, so 11/11, folks. 11/11 mass meditation, our opportunity to seize control of that currency that runs through society, so that we decide who gets what.
There you go.
All right, you know, Ben Fulford didn't exactly joke about it, but he would say, you know, the computer, the cabal would type, you know, the black screens, if you've heard of, you'll know about that, where they type in $10 billion into their computer black screens, and it's in through the JP Morgan servers, and there we go, out of nowhere, $10 billion. And then it would decide who gets it. Like, you go start a newspaper, you go start a war, and that was the problem.
Right.
Not money.
No,
okay.
Exactly.
So that's the opportunity that stands before us, folks, this 11/11, to gain control of that. Big deal. A lot of power at stake. All right. So, moving on from that really important point. Let me see here. Venus entering Sagittarius this month. I think you did touch on this.
Yeah, that's more of a feel-good type of situation where we want to enjoy ourselves more. And that's the entire month of November. You know, just having more fun, socializing, you know, laughter, exploring, exploration. That is part of Venus in Sagittarius.
All right, fantastic. All right, so there is some space, conducive environment to take a bit of R&R here and there, even fun, especially for starseeds, because that's at a premium these days.
Yeah, we didn't just come here to work.
Yeah.
We came here for some fun as well, you know, part of the lessons and learning. Yeah,
so, you know, because we're all pretty beat up, you know, we're processing a lot and that kind of thing. Right. So, folks, there is opportunities, and make the most of them, you know, to get that R&R, because it also helps you rejuvenate.
Absolutely.
So you can rejuvenate this month. You know, you don't have to just swing through crap all the time.
That's right, exactly.
Okay.
That's
just to, again, have that perspective, that practical perspective.
Got to do that. It's part of the balance.
Yeah.
You can't just all have it one way. It has, you know, there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
You know, working hard and having fun and so on.
Yep. So once again, look after yourself as well. Get that rest and you know, fun as well. Let me see here. We probably talk about this. Sun and new moon in Sagittarius, and Neptune finally coming out of retrograde. Okay.
Yeah. That's a great time to start something new. Plan for the future. New moon in Sag is always good for traveling, exploring, learning something new. And so there'll be a lot of energy around that new moon. And with Neptune finally coming out of retrograde, which does you know, quite a bit of time each year for 5-6 months, and it's going to inspire us to follow our path, follow our dreams, explore, you know, break out of the comfort zone, so to speak. So this will be a very beneficial time to start new things, especially going into the month of December, where the Earth energy is going to be really strong with Jupiter entering Capricorn as well. And so bringing things into the physical reality will be vitally important.
Yeah.
As we end the year.
Okay, so it'll help with, moving in a new direction, doing things differently, seeing things differently, acting differently. It'll really be conducive. Moving into, so we're talking end of November, beginning of December, or?
We're talking about, the beginning of December. And ending the year off on a high note where we feel responsible to move forward in a new direction.
Fantastic. To make this, again, an awesome winter. Or an awesome summer, if you're
especially with the solar eclipse on the 25th of December in Capricorn.
Right.
Setting the stage for something new to come in.
There you go, folks. We can make the most of that. So, definitely get that internal healing, clearing, reconciliation, consciousness raising, and rejuvenation through a bit of fun and R&R throughout November. Again, it's only the 11/11 that you would have to focus outwardly with that mass meditation, and start doing things differently come December.
Exactly.
Start new things, and it's a good time to start new things too.
Yes, with the two new moons coming up, the one in Sag in November, and then even more importantly, the one in December. It's setting the stage for new opportunities in your own personal life, depending on where it falls in your chart.
Okay, and is that in the main areas of life, or just any specific areas of life?
It depends on your sign, right? Mostly career, because Capricorn is all about career. It's all about purpose, drive, determination, and so yes, that's going to play a very important role. Okay, so follow your bliss, as I like to tell people. Follow your bliss,
and don't be afraid, especially towards the end of November. Don't be afraid to really start thinking differently. Really start seeing things differently. November presents an opportunity to process and see things differently in terms of whatever comes up from the past. To help you clear that slate, I suppose. But I think I'm being told right now that there is a strong element of gaining, not necessarily a new mentality to consider adopting. That's in line with who you are, don't get me wrong. But a more evolved way of thinking.
Sure.
Just a different but high level way of thinking. That's December is good for that as well. All right, the sun. Let me see here. All right, so we've discussed that. Trigonometry, how long has it been in retrograde? All right, we've discussed that. Now let's talk about the cabal takedown worldwide as it relates to. We sort of touched on most of this, but is there anything else that you want to finish off with when it comes to the cabal takedown with regards to as it relates to Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter in Capricorn? We've touched on most of this, but anything that you think also needs to be mentioned that you may not have, if anything?
Well, that's what we're going to see is, again, that level of karma, the level of if you've done wrong in some way or you've done harm in some way, it will be brought forth. And the cabal, basically, from what I understand and what I gather, worldwide, has been neutered. Okay?
Basically.
Their everything financially has been taken away. We know who they are. It's slowly fading away. The last thing they're holding on to is the media. The media is this evil empire that does not want to let go. Yeah,
and folks, it's important to be aware because this is going to come up to people's minds as you were saying that. Because everyone's going to be thinking, but they still look strong, because of what people see in all the media, both the truth websites, the esoteric and truther websites or alternative media, let alone the mainstream corporate media, the cabal media. It is important to keep in mind, folks, that the white hats, they know basic things like the art of war by Sun Tzu, I think his name was. That's basic stuff for these generals. for the most part. And one of the philosophies is, as you know, is feign weakness while you grow strong.
Sure, absolutely.
Appear small when you're really big and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
This is basic 101 stuff that they teach at West Point.
Right.
And it is important to remember that, folks. Keep that in perspective, because rest assured they're applying it.
Right. But they're going to lose in the long run.
Yeah.
And when I say they, I mean their power will start to fade over time, because that's the way it's been set up. And that's,
So in some, you're saying we can expect an even more manifest, overt, visible or amplified exposure and destruction of the cabal in the next 3 months in particular.
Absolutely.
Because now the stars are forcing that now as well. More so than in the past. That's the distinction.
Absolutely. The year of 2020, and I believe I wrote this down somewhere, is new foundations, new structures.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be what we're going to see.
Yeah.
And it's not going to include the cabal. It's not going to include these the people that have been controlling things.
Yeah.
And so
again, almost half of what we need to do as Starseeds or 144K members is to make sure the huge uncertainty, fear, and the precariousness, rockiness, the scariness is smooth right over, typically through mass meditations, but also, there's many talented grid workers out there and so forth. Big deal, folks. Really keep that in mind. All right. Let's finish off with the eclipses. Okay. I think we've got pretty good perspective now for the next 3 months for people to really understand what's going on and therefore have no fear. Eclipses, December 25th, and that's the annular eclipse over Malaysia. All right, let's start off with that now. The ins and outs of that. What do we need to know about that as energetic planetary liberators?
It's going to be in Capricorn at 4 degrees. So wherever that falls into your chart, that's going to activate that energy. The fact that an eclipse falls over Malaysia. Now, Malaysia is a very interesting country when it comes to, having a lot of resources. I don't know if you know, a lot of these countries, a lot of the gold that we have in the world is in Malaysia.
Oh, right.
Being guarded by families.
So not just in Indonesia and Taiwan.
All
that whole area, right?
And I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what has been suggested. Okay, so if that's the case, we will see over the next year or two, I would say the next year, keep an eye on those regions for a more important role in the world. More significant talks that take place amongst world leaders may take place in Malaysia. You see, that's how it works in astrology. If the eclipse falls over a certain country, it'll start to be transformed in a sense. The energy will start to be transformed. Here in the United States, since we are a Cancer nation, this is going to do with the partnerships and the relationships that the country has with corporations, with the outside world. It will begin to become more partner-oriented with other nations. Now, we already have that in place, but I think we're going to see new agreements. And that's what Trump was brought in for.
Yeah, because obviously all of that, the main most prominent aspect of that is being this so-called trade war with China, which in my opinion, intuitive opinion, is really the highest octave aspect of an actual physical military war with China, meaning that's happening, not the lower octave. Similar sort of energy.
What I've learned over the years is that a lot of what we hear is not exactly what's taking place behind the scenes.
Yep.
And it's a dog and pony show to keep everyone alert or aware. But China, Russia, India, these are major players right now in the world because they hold a lot of the resources, the gold, the silver, all that stuff.
Right.
And so they're players at the table. So what we're going to see with this eclipse is a lot of agreements that are going to be made between these countries, especially China, because China owns most of the debt that the United States has. So you can't leave out China. So we're going to see a lot of negotiations in the year ahead, beginning with this eclipse.
Yeah.
So I say strap in, grab your popcorn, because it's going to be a real interesting show.
Yep, definitely. And again, what we do with starseeds, with our energy work and mass meditations, do you believe that would have a big influence on what level octave of each astrological event we can help take the planet to, in terms of the highest octave possibilities?
Well, with this octave, we're talking about Capricorn energy. We're talking about quite a few planets in Capricorn. It's all about building new structures.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I'm going to call the next year, building new foundations and new structures. And that's what Capricorn is all about. It's about taking things from nothing and building them to a higher awareness, a higher, structure in some fashion, in some way.
All right, sorry.
No, and Pluto is in the sign of destruction and dismantling.
Yeah, I was going to say that implies that this year, or the remainder of this year, is all about, I think destruction isn't necessarily the right word,
transforming.
Deconstruction and clearing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we see, and that's what we're going to see with all of these alignments that are coming in at the beginning of the year, starting with the eclipse in December. And then the second wave of that will be in January, on the 10th.
All right, January 10th, that's a huge one, apparently. Well, first of all, in terms of what octave we come out on with regard to the December 25th eclipse, would that have an influence on the January eclipse in terms of how well that goes?
Yes, they usually come in pairs.
Right.
The eclipses.
Uh-huh.
So it's a 1-2 punch.
Uh-huh.
So the new moon or the solar eclipse opens the doorway, while the lunar eclipse on the other end closes the doorway on the past.
Right.
So the lunar eclipse in Cancer on the 10th, on January, is going to close a doorway. Wherever that falls in your chart, it'll be the United States will be involved in this closure. There will be a change to, some form of foundation in the government, corporations. We're going to see all of that. It'll unfold right before our eyes.
Okay.
As it happens.
Yeah.
And anything to do with power and structure is going to continue to be transformed over the next 6 months to a year.
Yep. And, again, it's up to us to clear, because they're resisting. They're resisting like nobody's business.
Right.
And our job as starters is to clear primarily the non-physical interferences and blockages to allow for that comparatively smoother transition, so that come every major astrological event, we take the planet to the highest octave possibility. Exactly. That's our responsibility, folks. Exactly. Crucial responsibility.
Absolutely.
And let me see here, to finish off, are there particular aspects of these eclipses that need our focus in global mass meditations? Do you have anything to say about that, or not really?
Meditate on who you are and what your purpose is in this world, and follow that.
Yep.
Okay? And always remember that we're just energy, consciousness.
Yep.
And the more we can become aware of that we're conscious energy beings in a physical container having an experience, the better the entire world is.
Okay.
So
fantastic.
Okay.
Now, just to round things off, because some people are asking this question, what is the difference between the different types of eclipses? For example, the one in December 25th is an annular eclipse. How is that different from other types of eclipses? Now, I know that might be a hard one to answer.
No, not really.
Okay.
It's basically how we're facing the sun. In
Right.
other words, a total solar eclipse is when the moon is completely blocking out the sun. An angular is just a portion of the sun is blocked.
Okay.
That's all it means.
Okay.
And it's not as strong. It's in a sort of a weakened state because the sun's power is still coming through, hitting the earth.
Yeah.
But with a total eclipse, these are more powerful because they literally cut off the energy flow from the sun, and it affects the earth more significantly.
Awesome. Okay, folks, that wraps up another big discussion from Joseph P. Anthony of Planets Within, Go to his website and subscribe for his monthly astrological, newsletter that he tells you what to, not just what you need to know, but what to roll with and take advantage of, rather than resist by being ignorant about what's happening in that coming month. You always release that newsletter on the on the last day of each month.
Every day
for the following month, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just understanding the cycles, and I try and keep it as simple as possible. And of course, I have the horoscopes at the bottom. You just click on that. If you know your rising sign, you click on that one too.
Yep.
But it's just a very basic and general way of helping people understand what's
going on
month ahead.
Yeah, ultimately to dissipate fear, because that's all that's happening. I'm not.
Exactly.
It's not me, or I don't have to resist what's happening before me when I don't want when that wasn't what I was planning to happen, and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Really big deal, and if you feel guided, and that's a lot of value. I'm on your newsletter myself. A lot of value just with that. If you feel guided to check out his $10 service as well at www.planetswithin.com. And folks, Joe, thank you once again.
Thank you, Joe,
for taking the time. Time is such a huge issue for all of us these days.
Yes.
But as long as we invest it wisely, I guess that's the main thing in terms of serving the world, giving a lot of value to people. And so thank you again for coming over to our place on this particular interview. And folks, on the other side of this very short musical break, I'm going to really take head on the whole somewhat pervasive belief, which is very disempowering, by the way, that goes, if it's written in the stars, then it'll just happen here, no matter what. There's some truth to that, but there's a little caveat to it that makes all the difference. In terms of why it may not necessarily happen here in the way it's, divinely ordained, in terms of coming out on the highest octave possibilities with every astrological event. And so I'm going to get into that. You'll definitely want to be fully aware of this, so do stay tuned and get that critical high frequency information right on the other side of this short musical break. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You've been listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. Be right back. This is Ground Crew Command Radio, that rock solid pillar you can always lean on or hang on to, for that matter, and depend on to be there for you folks. And I really mean that. It's a big deal. We're closer than ever to freedom. As your loving servant, the Unknown Light Warrior, I'm just doing my bit, obviously, and that's the main thing we need to make sure about, all of us doing our part per our soul. I don't like to use the word dictates, but that's essentially what it is. Now, the whole thing about if it's written in the stars, won't it happen if it's written in the stars anyway? And again, the reason why, totally reasonable question. And I don't know how long ago someone asked that question to Cobra, one of his consciousness, I think last year or whatever. And Cobra responded with, if it's written in the stars, it will stay in the stars.
we do have to take action here. So here's the deal. The primary purpose, or one of the primary purposes of the veil, or Archon grid, Chimera grid, etc., right, is it's not just there for the sake of control, and to maintain this fear farm, loosh farm. It isn't just that. It's also to make this planet immune to the astrological events, immune to the galactic and universal cycles. And, obviously a very bold sort of goal on darkness's part, but, even if they don't succeed in that, they'll be able to still destroy the planet, even if they can't make this planet totally immune to the universal cycles and the astrological influences. They'll still be able to destroy the planet if they can't quite succeed at that. And, yeah, you got it now, right, in terms of how important we are, in terms of what we do. We certainly, especially to the conscious mind, conscious incarnational mind in the physical awakeness state, we certainly don't appear to have the most glamorous, exotic role to play, because here we are on the physical plane living a seemingly normal and generally difficult civilian life within the matrix. And that's why I try to stress, don't fall for that lie. Don't be tricked by that. The whole undercover agent of light is more real than you can possibly imagine. And you'll start to really get it more and more, really actually get it more and more. The more those integrations occur every time you heal and clear and adjust your thinking and do, the occasional DNA activation and so forth. Okay, so that's the deal there in terms of why Cobra said if it's written in the stars, it will stay in the stars, and why we need to take action. That's how crucial our role is. So really be under no illusions of that. So with that out of the way, there's some important stuff I want to get into with the meditation. Okay, so last week, Halloween meditation. So here's some of the loads of action I promised to deliver on as a report in last week's 144K anti-Halloween mass meditation. Basically, the crux of what happened was the dark energies and rituals themselves were like I said at the beginning of the show, at a real loud fever pitch. All right? Massive amounts of darkness were pouring into our realm or planet. So they were basically ambushed by you, me, and your guides and the teams, and it clearly took a long time to clear so much darkness. And after the soul fragment retrieval of the sacrificed victims was done, those wormholes and vortexes that the Luciferians or black magicians, witches, whatever, opened up were tracked back by the teams, back to the realms within the non-physical planes on this planet and transmuted outright. And these realms, they're kind of like their own mini universes or dimensions by some definitions. They vary in size from the size of a football field to an atom-sized, temporal bubble, to use Corey Good's terminology. And thanks to and by the way, anyone that normally try to do this sort of thing on their own would end up in big trouble, obviously. And I'm sure some of you know what I mean. That's why we take the time to call in macro level, levels of light from above, the multiverse. It's a little hard to do this on your own, even with all your high dimensional aspects. You get the point. So, thanks to our reaction to these mass Luciferian rituals and invocations, they exposed themselves, namely the non-physical darkness, and we ambushed, tracked back to their little homes, and cleared Haiti, to use that broad ancient terminology for hell. And there's actually quite a few Hades that we transmuted. So, how has this prevented the Dark Ones from taking advantage of the lower, or should I say, push us into the lower octave timeline possibilities with the massive astrological events coming our way? Now, the physical Dark Ones really had to succeed at this because for them to have a hope, they needed to lower the timelines with all this dense and negative energies just being present on the planet, so that the lower octave possibilities of the very intense upcoming astrological events would most likely occur as a result, instead of the higher octave possibilities. And we prevented the lower octave possibilities from occurring, that they tried very, very hard to make happen. Again, a big salute to everybody, to the 144K. Yes, I'm pretty sure we're the only mass meditation group that were not just doing this, but doing this meditation with this specific intent. Okay? Big deal. We're doing it. We're doing our role. We are the heroes that we've been waiting for. Anyway, so the crucial soul fragment retrieval part. And by the way, for those of you a little new to energy, I'll be releasing a video hopefully very soon. It's been on such an insane delay. That'll explain fundamentally what soul fragment retrieval is, so don't worry if you don't know. Anyway, how that will help Gaia, all the soul fragment retrievals that we did, and humanity ascend quicker and easier to those higher timelines close to the event timeline. Now, how this will help is by having all these souls trapped in these traumas of the rituals, and remember, time is simultaneous, not linear. So all so-called past ritual sacrifices is still occurring in real time, or was. Okay, we retrieved it. And what that does is, or did is, it weighs down the whole planet and gives darkness itself more energy to run on because of the heaviness produced. Right? Very hard to raise the planet to that event timeline with all that density being continually given off and charging up darkness with that loosh. So that's how that crucial soul fragment retrieval part of all those past victims has helped. Huge, big deal. Obviously, I don't need to say that. And now, how this helped and how all that, everything that we did in this anti-Halloween mass meditation, how that helped in locating and removing the universe-destroying plasma topple bombs. Okay, every time we do a clearing or mass transmutation like this, it clears all the smoke. And I'm talking about the non-physical planes here, right? It clears the smoke, the mess, the obstacles, the energetic mud within or underneath which the plasma topple bombs are hidden. So our ET brethren, they find them easier, remove them quicker. Okay? Again, beyond comprehension how important our role is and what you're doing every time you join a 144K mass meditation. It's just changing everything, changing the planet, changing our destiny, bringing us higher and higher to that event timeline frequency. You know, again, don't be at all disillusioned that it's, you know, one thing after the other and it's taken so long. You have to appreciate how much was there that needed to be cleared, both on the non-physical and physical planes. It's just, we're talking about a minimum, it's actually more, but a minimum 26,000 years of garbage that we need to remove. That's a lot of garbage, folks. Okay. Really maintain that perspective. Again, because of the privilege of projecting our consciousness from the physical plane to the non-physical plane, we can do this rapid fire, much faster. So that's that. And let me try to let me quickly hop along over to my email and bring up. All right, where are we here? Here we go. Meditation reports compiled. I'm just going to quickly read this out because there's some important things to cover in the news portion. That'll be really liberating and empowering for everybody. Fabulous work today on my Light Warrior. Thanks. My team was working alongside the ancient goddess deities for justice, law, as in L-O-R-E, law, L-A-W, and change. I was under instruction not to reveal info prior to the 144K time in the ethers on Thursday. That's the way. One, it wasn't until the goddess deity of change, Hoya, was able to create a transmutation of the dark intent to light. In the nanosecond prior to each launch from their filthy rituals and attacks that were flying at us, that were able to lift off Earth. The reason the Dark Ones were continuing to bring through their rituals before we could negate them was a law issue in terms of L-O-R-E. They had to step over the line in the sand, quote unquote, established in processes of ancient Earth law and goddess ritual in the previous 24 hours. They fell for the temptation of continuing as planned without realizing it would be their demise, such as the ego of dark world of form. Again, thank you and all the 144K light workers for being on point today. The key is to not think about it at all and then just bust out on them out of nowhere. R.A. are the initials there. Thank you, R.A. Really appreciate it. Second, I decided to take a different approach and go rogue. I had a new focus after speaking to you and realized that whooping that ass, quote unquote, wasn't the most advantageous strategy. So I realigned my intention and went in at about 15 minutes early. I began to do my own protocol and what felt like totally cleaned house, totally hidden, total surprise attack. Got in and got out totally undetected and unscathed. Awesome. That's a great sort of evolution of working with energy. So well done, DL from Vega. We'll leave it at that. I created a spinning vortex of light so powerful it sucked up all the distortion up into it. I could literally see their black claws scraping like in the movies in a frantic attempt to cling on. However, this time, instead of bombarding or battling them, my mission was different. It was simply enter light and truth, free the enslaved, shine light on darkness, transmute, heal and protect, reveal the hidden, honor the players. No more beat them up or kill them or hurt them or trying to remove their distortion and free them from their enslavement of dark torture. I was in and out like a ninja, and I'm feeling great this morning. Not sick, in other words, despite the tragedies I had to endure in the past. So that's from his first initial is DL, Vega. And well done. Thank you for sending that in. All right, third, that was quite an experience last evening. During and after the meditation experience, I sensed more deeply how serious these mass clearing projects are, especially for liberating our planet and rescuing humanity from the sophisticated network of evil that has produced so much harm and suppression from I Am Source over millennia. I appreciate your dedication to nurturing and protecting the 144K cadre. The Amalgam protection system is effective, and that's a free download, folks, in the 144K members area. So just go to that. It's very important to do each morning, actually, or recharge each morning after you do it once a week. The Amalgam protection system is effective, and I use it in addition to the protection of Archangel Michael and his Blue Flame Legions. As I have mentioned earlier, I remain concerned about the corporate push to disseminate 5G, which seems to be gaining momentum. The Aramaic influence is tremendous in the US and in Western Europe and generally around the planet. Liberating humanity up to the fifth dimension consciousness is no mean feat. Thanks for being there for us serious liberators like yourself. It's an honour to be able to serve with the 144K group and with the teams. The four-phase system and ICB technology are a great gift. Blessings, initials FL. Thank you, FL. Really appreciate it, and it is an honour indeed, yes. All right. Some of us older ones that have been meditating for world peace and freedom without mass meditation until more recently and had to depend on the beings of higher dimensions to survive and hold the light. Some of us had the snot kicked out of us from early childhood, and we operate from a higher level because our bodies are so damaged. As you have spoken, I had to depend mostly on the light beings to carry me during the meditation. I had a spinal injury recently. Really sorry to hear that. I was aware the whole meditation, even though it seemed I slept through all but the first hour and then the last 20 minutes, but I saw and remember everything in the spirit. I saw the darkness get thinner and separate from itself and started to dissipate, and the light took over. It is always stronger. You are right. The workers of dark magic can feel their loss of power and their control over us. They have already lost and they know it. Sometimes the effects are not felt or noticed right away. I had to listen to the meditation again last night and it all came into perspective. Afterwards, the light beings were surrounding me. Afterwards, the light beings just surrounded me and poured out the loving healing energy. I woke up with notable healing to my back and my respiratory system. I see changes and improvements at my workplace. People respond better to me, even though I am going through issues with the management. I know that will be worked out too. We kicked the butt. Thank you. Initials JH. Or to put it in American language, JH. And the last one, another amazing mass meditation. I did the 7-minute mass meditation protection protocol prior to the event. While waiting for the event to start, I saw some dark beings coming towards me, and then a golden gate manifested, blocking them. And if they came too close, a kind of shock was sent out. This back and forth happened a couple of times. During the meditation, I saw black plasma being cleared up, and within that I saw rituals being shut down. The black plasma was being cleared up in Asia, South America, Europe, and North America. Black plasma was also cleared from Gaia's call, love and gratitude, J, initials, JS. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I salute you all. I give you a really big hug. Such a big deal for, hearing what people, other 144K members experience, such a big deal. And we got 9 minutes left for the live broadcast, so I'm going to jump straight into the news. Okay, so Pentagon sources confirm, well, they're adamant, that senior cabal politicians are being systematically hunted down and killed or arrested. So let's get into how this is all for nothing without the spiritual, energetic backing of mostly civilian starseeds doing our work. Why am I saying that? Why is that the case? Because it all comes down to the underlying energetic fabric of this reality that's energetically out of balance, fundamentally out of balance. What Cobra referred to as the meta-stability event. You just go to his blog, type in meta-stability event, and it'll bring up a couple of posts only. Really important to understand this. It's very fundamental stuff here, which is when to put it in real layman's terms, metastability is when, or the metastability event is when the fundamental anomalous aspect of physical and non-physical energies and quantum particles is removed. Otherwise, darkness always, crawls its way back into power, as evidenced by history. So that's why it's all for nothing. No matter what's going on there, it's all for nothing without that spiritual, energetic backing and work on our part. All right? Remember, you're an undercover agent of light, and it's as simple as that. In other words, really try to keep yourself alive. Really, really important. You're so needed and loved. Now, the next critical thing to understand and have clarity on, resistance leaders confirm much of the hot conventional military side of the liberation war is indeed occurring in underground or subterranean facilities. All right, and, so it's time to get into what non-physical element needs to be removed and how this amplifies efforts to find these bases and clear them much quicker, right, and with less casualties. So non-physical darkness also has bases or realms, that are heavily fortified, and they attack the Marines or special forces who attack cabal bases on the physical. Now, our job is, 1, to find and clear the non-physical bases or realms, and 2, keep on transmitting the fundamental out-of-balance wonkiness of the energy, including the anomalous plasma. Otherwise, it's hard for things to go right, or better with clearing out these underground bases. Otherwise, battles take longer. There are more casualties. The forest fires that occur above ground, where these bases are, because quite often there's above ground entrances, and sometimes there's physical darkness presence above ground, above these bases, doing surveillance and some sort of guard duty kind of thing. Anyway, some entrances are on the surface and they're guarded and so forth, and the White Hats have to enter through them. Firefights ensue, and with firefights, explosions, and with explosions, fires, forest fires. Okay, so again, clearing essentially the same sort of thing, but the non-physical aspects or equivalents of these bases or realms, if you will, that are often hidden or fortified, that helps the same thing happen better and quicken on the physical, right? With physical underground bases, so in other words, they're needed big time. And as far as the forest fires are concerned, good old Simon Parkes, he's doing, and obviously quite happy to promote, an emergency meditation on Saturday, November 9th. So this Saturday, it's at 10 p.m. GMT, so that's London time, 10 p.m. London time on Saturday, 2 p.m. California time, same day, and 5 p.m. New York, and it's Sunday, 9 a.m. in Sydney and Melbourne, and a couple of hours earlier in East Asia on Sunday. He's doing a meditation, at 10, I think it's 15-minute meditation to help resolve the shut down the forest fires that are triggered by these, guys are dying, okay? Soldiers are dying, taking these spaces out. Really keep that in mind, okay? Their mothers, their fiancés, their wives, their girlfriends, some of them are going to get those dreaded letters or visits by the military chaplain and whatever officer, attaché, their name is, to go homes and notify that your son was killed in action. Now, they're going to say Afghanistan or something like that, of course. I like to think that casualties are nothing too major, but many will be getting wounded. Just like it's a conventional military situation with taking out these underground bases. They're getting shot. You've all seen Saving Private Ryan. Arms and legs go get blown off. It ain't pretty. So, again, without that spiritual energetic backing, it gets a lot more graphic for them. It takes longer for them. The battles go longer, etc. Anyway, and there's also and this relates to the fires, primarily the fires in California, where many of you now know there's underground bases that the White House are clearing, and Australia apparently. As far as fires in Australia, with mysterious power outages there as well, not just in California. Suffice to say, as I'm sure many of you have worked out by now, that's where my current incarnation is from. And so, same sort of thing happening in Australia, because, they've got these bases in quite a few places. So that's the deal there, okay, with that important little bullet point there. All right, I'm trying to finish up here, folks. All right, so big deal about the stuff about Rudolph Giuliani, and I'll get into that shortly, but first I need to discuss. By the way, if you're listening to this live and I disappear because the 2-hour mark is about to come, download the recording in, I think, 20 minutes or so, and you can hear the rest of this there. Anyway, so next thing on the news talking points, will we see a half-empty or mostly empty U.S. Congress by the 2020 elections next November, to be and for them to be filled with non-cabal controlled representatives, as Pentagon sources confirm many have been secretly rounded up after public revelations of the IMF, in other words, the cabal, bribing cabal-affiliated politicians via Ukraine, because that's where they funnel the money through in terms of the IMF loan, via Ukraine to brother politicians here to remove White Hat frontman President Trump from office. Or at the very least, smear him during the presidential election cycle. All right, that's the minimum of what the cabal is going for. All right. So, will that happen? Will we see a mostly empty or half-empty U.S. Congress by 2020 elections next November? Yes, if we do our job. All right. If we do a job to open up the timeline where that indeed happens. Very hard for that to happen if the energies and non-physical darkness doesn't allow for that to happen. In other words, if they're still there and we haven't cleared them yet, for whatever reason. So if non-physical darkness is bolstering and backing physical darkness, all right, so, the cabal, and their network, in stopping white hat moves to bring in voter ID, for example, it will be very hard or less likely that the white hats can stop the cabal from using massive voting blocks known as dead people and recent immigrants on welfare or illegals for ultimately altering the destiny of humanity. And thankfully, you know, I'm an immigrant myself, both into America and my family into Australia. You know, very stereotypical ethnic immigrant family background. So I guess I can say that. But the cabal has very deliberately and strategically used them as voting blocks. That's why they bring them in. Suffice to say, they could not care less about the well-being of immigrants. It's all a fake out. It's all about taking control of humanity's destiny, and it's up to us to take that control from them. And that's that. So, next point. Are the white hats setting up one more, possibly even bigger trap for the cabal, as the cabal threatens to uncover former New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani's involvement in the 9/11 cover-up in order to stop his efforts in investigating cabal politician involvement and corruption in Ukraine, Romania, Italy, Russia, Britain, well, basically everywhere, certainly Australia. You know, so I'm going to say yes to that. Now, the thing to understand about Rudolph Giuliani is, yes, he was involved in the cover-up of 9/11. You know, he was mayor, so, you know, the usual thing. You know, they put a gun to your head and say, do this, and you say, yes, because I would like to see my family tonight. And Rudolph Giuliani is a fairly typical example, a fairly typical, you know, Earth Alliance or white hat type, meaning, again, as David Wilcock and Corey Good have tried to stress to everybody in the past, a good 80% of the white hats or Earth Alliance, what do you want to call them, were former cabal members, all right, part of the club. That's just the way that is, all right. Again, many of them were threatened into it or bribed into it or some kind of duress, sometimes seduced into it because, you know, they were just being self-centered, wanted to build their careers or whatever, and you know, even though in essence their energy was neutral. Anyway, so the cabal threatening to expose Rudolph Giuliani's involvement in the 9/11 cover-up because he was mayor at the time. Okay, well, that means the cabal is going to bring up 9/11 stuff. Sure, it'll expose Rudolph Giuliani, but that's just what the white hats want to happen so that now the white hats can make a meal out of that and expose the cabal's involvement in 9/11 cover-up. You know, because many of them still very much are in the cabal. Mueller, who was FBI director at the time, is a good example of that. So, yeah, it's to, in one way, tempt the cabal to bring up the whole 9/11 cover-up thing. Be my guest. You know. Anyway, next point, how real is the so-called highest-level negotiations for the peaceful transfer of world power to the Asians and the Western-led World Alliance forces? You know, how real is all of that? It's real. It is happening. Again, and it's going to be a radical improvement either way. But it'll take 50 or 100 years. And this is what's happened in the past, right? Just like with the American Revolution and the French Revolution. It'll take a while, but things will gradually swing back into firm cabal control because the non-physical planes haven't been cleared. But the point is, it's really, it is happening. It's not all the cabal. It's sort of like the ones that are left that haven't run and hidden somewhere or committed suicide or whatever. Those members of the cabal, they're going along with this partly because they're just trying to figure out how to live past 2025, basically. It's mainly as a survival mechanism. They might be psychopaths or sociopaths, and in some respects insane, but they're not necessarily stupid either. Now, what the cabal must do to show it is being sincere with regards to these negotiations of the transfer of power, what it must do is to stop its social engineering programs. Again, they deliberately dress it up with that false benevolent facade, where they're acting as if they're championing someone's rights or whatever, feigning compassion, because they know otherwise people won't pay attention. They know that they wouldn't be able to manipulate the innate good nature of the general population if they don't present that fake benevolent facade, no matter what they say. So that's what they need to do, because that is what's creating so much vitriol and divisiveness on the physical plane, especially in Western society, well, mostly in Western society. That's it. It's not Trump's fault and all that kind of lies. All right. When the cabal does that, starts doing that, okay, oh no, okay, looks like then we'll know, right, that they really are wanting to return to the light. Okay, great. We may have something here. Until then, well, speaking for myself, it's up to us and our massive non-physical backing to make sure, we create an energetic environment, both here on the physical plane as well, where they're forced to cut it, quit it, all the shenanigans with their social engineering programs that they're doing. Because really that's the only thing that's causing disunity, and that's the only thing that's causing real problems. Their media mouthpieces. So that's that, in terms of what the cabal must do to show it's being sincere. All right. Why is this unlikely to happen, and why exactly the 144K is needed to make sure it does? I guess I went into that briefly. So long as they still feel, sense, or driven by the presence of non-physical darkness, they're either going to think there's some sort of hope, surely, or they're going to think, I'm taking down everyone with me, and I'm going to try to destroy the planet. It's either that or, victory of darkness. Some have, made a very cut and dry one of two things kind of a choice, and that's just their perspective. That's just their mentality. And that's that. And we need to make sure that there's nothing backing them, no non-physical backing, which is happening. Okay. All right. So what's the perfect antidote to make sure things go our way? Well, I've pretty much said it already. All right, educating Mr. Cabal representative involved in these negotiations over the statement of, quote, the global ruling class have no objection to the people, taking control of the planet if they show themselves capable of understanding and taking on the challenges of running a planet. So all I can say to that is, dude, are you kidding me? You guys have been deliberately trying to destroy the planet, destroy minds, destroy everything in sight. Either that or just subvert it in a back to front kind of way to have this delightful purgatory realm. Like, are you kidding me? Okay. You've come up with every which way conceivable to subvert, massively program on multiple layers the consciousness and the human mind, from birth, the education system, media, and we can go on. Never mind physical and non-physical implants. And without having such a big influence on humanity. And in that context, you're seriously saying, if we show ourselves capable of understanding and taking on the challenges of running the planet, in that context, even in a wrecked state of mind with all this false programming, I can assure you, dude, we can do a heck of a lot better than what you have. And I'm trying to be as polite about this as possible. I'm trying not to swear on air. I mean, most of the laws, all right, even corporate statute laws, never mind common law, canon law, natural law, the Constitution of most countries, especially, liberal Western democracies that generally have great constitutions. U.S. Constitution is number one, no doubt. That's us. We're the ones that developed all of that. You freaking moron. Are you kidding me? I'm going to leave it at that because I'm trying not to swear on air. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm sure you can sense the, Anyway, it's been a long time since I've been insulted to that degree, and I'm sure I'm speaking for the collective, on behalf of the collective there. Damn, as Will Smith used to say. And I think that's a good way to finish this episode by, insulting the cabal's not insulting the cabal's intelligence, because there's not really an intelligence that runs the cabal. It's just what's the word? A cult-like program, a cult-like belief. That's the so-called intelligence that runs these guys. Almost all the functional laws and constitutions were written by us, humanity, albeit in relation to the U.S. Constitution, positive secret society members, but it's us, dude. Anyway, take that statement and you know where you can stick it, and I'll leave it at that. And that wraps up another huge episode of Ground Crew Command Radio. So lots of information with regards to what's happening astrologically there, obviously. So it's a good idea to, listen to it twice to remember, which direction to swim in, to swim with the waves, not against them, in terms of the astrological forces, and to be able to use it to your advantage. Really important to be savvy about that. It, will make life so much easier. Because generally speaking, resistance generally doesn't work. Go with the flow, as they say, but in a way that's aligned with your soul purpose and path. Absolute sacred. And that brings a huge episode to a close, folks. So once again, support this channel through Patreon or empowering yourself and accelerating your own evolution through the four-phase system or ICB. They're all at that bottom navigation bar on the members area below the 3 steps. And enjoy the wonderful resources there for you. And I'll see you all. Let me see here. We've got the mass meditation next Monday. So if I've got the time and energy, I'll do a show next Wednesday. I would love to do it, but let's just see how I go with time and energy. But don't forget, folks, 11/11, 144K, mass meditation, going down. It's going to happen on 11/11, which in the US is Monday, I believe. Yep, is Monday. So it'll be Tuesday, I suspect, Tuesday morning in the Far East and Australasia. Yep, I got that right. Anyway, the precise times are in the 144K members area. That's your home, folks. Make sure you visit it frequently. That's your internet home, your rock, the rock that you can always lean on. And see you on the non-physical on 11/11. Let's accelerate the lot, folks. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior.